Hi, welcome to the Secular Scriptures. I'm Gail. Stories are important. Humans run on stories. Our entire systems, societies, and economies are built on narratives that we tell ourselves. Our culture, family structure, history, and ideas for the future are all based on stories. Money, government, family ties, laws. All stories. Now, some of those stories are true. Some are close to truth, but maybe don't quite capture it. Some contain fur in my mouth because I have cats. Some contain only a kernel of truth in them, pulled from various bits and pieces of actual happenings. Others are wild flights of fancy that have nothing to do with reality at all. And some are harmful and some are helpful. Many stories are built around people who actually lived, whose stories grew into legend and then myth, which became religion, and eventually fell back to legend, diminished into fairy tales or nursery rhymes over time, only to be forgotten, and maybe someday rediscovered and retold again and again. Danger that the hardcore atheist runs into is the same one as the hardcore believer. Dogmatic thinking stifles the stories. The idea that imagination and fiction is unimportant is as absurd as insisting that creations of the imagination are real-world facts. The reality is that we need both. We need spooky, scary story time. Totally go watch her. As much as we need scientific inquiry, archaeological data points, and fact-checking, we need the what if to come before the now let's go find out. We need stories of giant women as tall as pine trees in Afghanistan to maybe begin to understand the atmospheric refraction phenomenon, Brocken specter, and the Fata Morgana mirages. If we just dismiss these as wild tales or lies without proof, we need proof! We never actually learn. We become uncurious. These are all very real things that people see. We even have photographs of them. And these things cause legends to spring up. But all of them have very real scientific explanations that don't involve actual giant women. Cryptids are a great example of this. Do I believe that the Loch Ness Monster is real? No, but it's fun. The Eye was also a cryptid until the 1780s. Locals considered it to be an evil forest spirit, not a real animal, though it could be killed. Okapis, mountain gorillas, and the duck-bill platypus, and many others were very real animals thought to be folklore or hoaxes until years of proof was brought back and examined multiple times by those who disbelieved. Ancient people found fossils and called them fairy gold and fallen stars, giants, dragons, or griffins that guarded nests of gold. The fossils are real, even if griffins aren't. Our folk tales and modern urban legends are just as important as ancient fairy stories and religious mythology. When Nanabozaho and Paul Bunyan get into a wrestling match and literally kick each other's butts across the country, piling up mountains and creating glacial crater lakes with their literal backsides, we know it's all just fantasy. But it's also a story about very real people coming into conflict with each other. The loggers of the American West and the Ojibwe each responding with their various heroes that became part of our great American folklore. The people were real. The conflicts actually did happen. It's only the outsized characters and the wild tales about the geography that aren't true. To bring this back to ye old Bible times, it's possible that Yahweh was a Semitic warlord, a real person who was a venerated ancestor, and then he became an Edomite or Midianite storm god. We know that the Canaanite people groups in other groups in that region at that time practiced ancestor worship and veneration, and it would be very easy to take one of those ancestors and turn it into a regional god with the rise of the land-tied city-state gods and temple mounds. Is there proof for that idea? Like, here's the grave with an inscription, here lies Yahweh, the greatest Edomite warlord of them all, No. Of course not, no. But it is a reasonable supposition based on surrounding evidence, though it's not totally accepted. It's in the realm of possibility. It's on the table, so to speak. There are also other possibilities. Yahweh could be an imported god, or a hey, we have one of those too, and our God's better than your God, our God's better than yours. He could be a whole cloth God, completely made up out of absolutely nothing. He could be an amalgamation of deities that entered the region with the Edomites, was adopted by the Israelites, and became what he is, which of course does happen in the story itself with the joining of Yahweh and El. And later we have the joining of Yahweh, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. What is not reasonable is holding the story up as the ultimate literal truth when the evidence doesn't support it. As an example, we have Jericho, which was largely abandoned and already in ruins by the time the Israelites emerged as a people group in the 1200s BCE. It's more reasonable to say this was a fun story about a pre-existing ruin written in the 600s BCE. The place is real, the architecture is there, the story about how it happens is the fantasy element. It's Paul Bunyan's butt making the lakes that were actually carved by glaciers. Still a cool story. Humans need a balance between logic and emotion, rationality and imagination, facts and creativity. If we only focus on the cold, hard, cruel world, we lose much of what it is to be human. I'm not saying to lose yourself in fantasy. But don't close yourself off to the wonder of the world and what if. It's okay to enjoy fiction, and it's even okay to believe it now and then within reason. Thank you for joining me on the Secular Scriptures. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next Sunday at 9 a.m. Somewhere in the depths of mystical space-time, A. Nasir is wondering why his name is being called, and he's slowly coalescing into a minor god of inferior goods. His time has come! Nani's voice also rises in a constant prayer that rings down through the ages. I'd like to speak to the manager.